Hello, and welcome to the Guitar Collection. Well, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say what I'm holding right now has been a dream of mine for a very long time. This is the very first Matthias Dammann guitar that I have ever owned, and it has been a dream to even just play one of these guitars ever since I began playing the guitar, listening to the recordings of Manuel Barrueco and David Russell and so many others that have famously played Matthias Dammann's instruments. I don't know where to begin, honestly, with this guitar. Maybe I ought to go over the technical specs, just like I do every other instrument, and then get to the story of this guitar, what makes these guitars so incredibly special and hard to find, and everything else. So first things first, Matthias Dammann was the inventor of double-top guitars. Now, what does that mean? It's really not doubled, it's actually 3 layers. It's also called a sandwich top or composite top, which makes a little bit more sense. Which is essentially a piece of cedar on top, another layer of wood, cedar below it in this example, and then something in between. Now, Matthias Dammann built his first double top in the late 80s, and this guitar was built in 1994. However, the double tops that he makes now and is most famous for, with nomex in between the 2 tops, he didn't start using until 1997, I believe. And this was an influence of Gernot Wagner, who was another one of the big pioneers of double top guitar making. So like I said, this guitar was built in 1994, and it was an early example of a double top that Matthias Dammann was building. The story goes that he was trying to mimic some of the incredible wood that he was getting from Robert Ruck and others in the States and Canada. And one way of doing that was actually making 2 thinner pieces of wood and sandwiching them together to make the top really, really lightweight but incredibly stiff. Keep in mind, this is somewhat a layman's description of this, but that's the general idea from how I understand it. And in turn, it creates an instrument that is incredibly resonant, incredibly responsive, and has a lot of volume. Let's talk a little bit about the specs of this guitar, the specifications, all of the little details. As I said, this is a cedar double top, an early example of which, without nomex in between. You can see the iconic Dammann rosette. Oh my gosh, I mean, it is pure nostalgia too, because my guitar heroes played these guitars, and I personally think it is gorgeous. This goldish yellow ring that goes around this burgundy or dark red motif here. You can see that's those same lines go along the binding of the guitar, and some sort of, also, you'll notice on lots of different Dammanns, on the tie block, you'll see a different engraving here. And here you'll see an example of the rosette, these little, I don't know what you're gonna call them, but this pattern that's almost like an X, you see going along the bridge this way. And then when I flip the guitar around, you will see an incredibly old piece of Brazilian rosewood that has cracked in a couple of different spaces, but has been professionally repaired. This is some super, super dark and rare Brazilian rosewood that I actually have the CITES paperwork for, from Matthias Dammann with his signature showing when it was harvested, which was in the late 80s, I believe. The neck on this guitar is a bit of a behemoth. It's like, I would say it's a friendly giant, because the neck is very, very thin. And I've tried this on newer Dammanns too. I've noticed this, on newer Dammanns. It's a very thin neck and very C-shaped. Essentially the perfect shape for my hands. I love this. However, it's very wide. It's a 54 millimeter nut width, and it's a pretty wide string spacing over here. And the guitar is 655 millimeter scale length. So that's 5 millimeters longer than the standard 650 millimeters. To be honest, you don't notice that very much. 5 millimeters is very little. I think you would notice the width of the neck. But if you have large hands, there's actually some really nice pros to it being wider with wider string spacing. You definitely feel less clumsy accidentally hitting other strings. Like in this passage I was showing you. My hands feel super comfortable and I really trust where they're going. What I always say is if there's a neck that's this wide and it has a terribly thick and D-shaped neck on the back here, then that's something I can't deal with. I can never play on a guitar like that. However, this neck is wide but is very thin and very C-shaped, so it's something that I can deal with and I actually quite enjoy. Now up to the headstock, you'll notice Dammann's signature headstock here of, I believe inspired by Manuel Ramirez because that's what it looks like. Actually, just a year or two before this guitar, you will have noticed an old headstock design. So he had really just started using this headstock design, which he still uses today, I think almost identically. It has Rogers tuners. And on this early example of a Matthias Dammann guitar, there is no raised fingerboard. However, it is very, very easy to reach up high. It has fairly low frets, which I'm not sure if I'm a fan of. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I like the connection of my fingers to the ebony. I can really feel the wood there. And other times I like the feeling of being suspended above the fingerboard with taller frets. So I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but it is a very comfortable guitar to play, so I suppose I shouldn't complain. Well, okay, I think I have covered most of the specs here, but my gosh, I have to tell you, every time I look down at the rosette, I can't believe that I have this guitar in my hands because, the rosette is something that every young guitarist looks at and identifies when they see their guitar heroes playing. So you have to imagine, I'm sure many of you all here too, have looked at the rosettes of their heroes, whether that was Segovia playing his Ramirez or his Hauser guitars, or whether that was, me looking at David Russell and Barrueco playing on their Dammanns. So it's a very nostalgic feeling for me, and I feel very fortunate to be holding this guitar. While I'm holding a guitar made by the person who invented doubletops, I want to say something about doubletops that I think is often confused. When speaking of doubletops, I think sometimes you hear people lump all of these guitars into one category, like doubletops do this, or doubletops are just loud, or doubletops are really lightweight, or doubletops have short sustain, doubletops have long sustain. And the truth of the matter is all of those things are true depending on what doubletop by what maker you play. There's just as much variance in doubletop guitars as there are in traditional guitars and lattice brace guitars, and the list goes on and on. So when I'm going to be speaking about the characteristic of this doubletop, I'm speaking of Matthias Dammann's doubletop guitars in this particular example of his. Over the years, his have changed a lot too. So I'm going to take you back to the very first thing that I noticed about this guitar that makes it absolutely magical. And that is that you get the feeling that you control the guitar doesn't control you. Now, this is a wonderful thing if you have some idea about your tone production and some firm ideas about sound, because really, when you're shaping the sound and the guitar doesn't shape the sound as much for you, this can cause a problem sometimes, right? There are some instruments, which are lovely, I own many, and some of them are some of my favorite guitars, that when you play, a melody on the instrument, whatever it may be, it fills in a lot of gaps for you. There's lots of overtones, there's lots of things ringing that help you feel like you're playing more legato and with a warmer, rounder sound. However, on this instrument, it doesn't really do that much for you. However, it avoids the cold, heartless sound that you get in some extremely lightweight, I'll say Dammann style doubletops. This guitar has a warmth and a presence while still having so much fundamental and sustain that it's really this beautiful combination that comes together that just invites you to keep on playing the guitar, and it makes you realize that you can actually play exactly the idea that you have in your mind. And I hope I don't sound too romantic about this or like a salesman. This is genuinely the feeling that I get about these guitars, and this was before I ever thought about buying and selling guitars in the first place. It's a truly special instrument. I'm looking forward to playing some more musical examples for you, other than just that intro that you heard, so you can get a better idea of how this particular guitar sounds. Now, another sound characteristic I noticed on this guitar is that it is dark in overall character. For instance, if I play this, it's a pretty dark sound. Not in a bad way, but perhaps if that's the only attack that you played with on the guitar, it would get old, to be honest with you. Notice right now I'm playing with a very gentle, almost, I'll say, weak attack. But here's the beauty of this guitar. When you really push into the guitar, it brightens up, but it's not aggressive or crass sounding. Listen. Do you see what I mean? When I play quietly and when I play loudly. And like you heard from that example in the intro, I feel like the ability to select exactly what note and what color you want to get from this guitar is truly spectacular. And some of the best guitarists, fortunate here in Austin, Texas, to have incredible guitarists around me all the time. What some of the best guitarists notice when they're trying this guitar is that very thing. And sometimes, in fairness, it's not something that you can pick up on right away. Sometimes you think a guitar is special, but you don't know why, and it takes days. This happens to me all the time. But see, when I'm doing this, every single one of those things I really did choose. That interval, I wanted both of those pitches, this D sharp and A, to come out. And then when I got to here, my idea in my mind was for this G to shine above everything else. And here's a great example. Now, if I were to go around the room and take out all the guitars and play this passage on them, I'm not going to do that, though I am tempted. It would sound lovely on many of the guitars, if dare I say all of them. However, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find one that creates such a clear voice separation that you can control the melodic note, this, so well like it does on this guitar. See, I'm playing all of these notes, but I am making sure I bring out this high E. And this is, I can just play so quietly. And I'm speaking here of the dynamic range, how well the guitar can play quietly and how well it can play loud, and the distance in between those areas. Wow, I hope I'm not getting too deep into this, and please let me know in the comments if I am, or you'd appreciate a shorter review. However, you're not going to get it with this guitar because it's one that I truly love. On that subject, I am in the business of buying and selling guitars. This one I have not determined if I'm going to sell yet because I am having a lot of fun playing it. So if you are interested in this guitar, check the link in the description. I'll definitely have the details of this guitar on the website. Of course, I make these videos in this moment right now. This guitar is not available, but who knows, maybe in the future it will be. Maybe I get another Dammann guitar or something like that and I have to choose. Okay, well anyways, I hope you've gotten a little bit of a taste of what this guitar sounds like. There's so many things that I feel like I didn't cover here, but this is a magical instrument and I guess I should leave it at that and let you hear some musical examples on this guitar. As always, thank you so much for watching. I love reading your comments. We are over 900 subscribers now, and I do a live stream every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central US time where I'll show you some of these incredible guitars. Definitely check out guitarcollection.com. I'm always listing new instruments there. There's a box on the website as well that if you leave your email address, I will send emails to you letting you know what guitars are coming in and are available before videos like this come out or it gets posted on the website. So definitely stay in touch. Write to me if you're looking to sell one of your fine instruments or consign it even. I'm doing those now. So, okay, that's enough ads for you. Let's get to playing. So thanks so much for watching. you.